Welcome to day 2 of the Apex XRPL Ledger Summit. Who enjoyed the party? Good cocktails? Good band? All right. In case you missed yesterday's introductions, I'm Jazz Takar.
And I'm Jazzy Cooper.
Yesterday we had 5 incredible keynote sessions on the state of the XRP Ledger and some of its most important use cases.
You then all had the opportunity to choose your own path at Apex, selecting afternoon breakout sessions about everything from building apps to learning about new tools like XRPL plugins.
So the momentum continues today with 6 more keynote sessions on this stage from innovators and thought leaders building and utilizing on the XRP Ledger.
And just like yesterday, you'll again get an opportunity to attend breakout sessions in the afternoon. We'll end the day with a closing keynote back in this room with an Ask Me Anything with the one and only David Schwartz, as well as the Block's George Kelly. Thank you to everyone who's already submitted questions.
All right, so let's get this program started. this morning with a key builder on the XRP Ledger that you should all know.
Wietse Wind of the XRPL Labs is one of the earliest and most prolific builders on the XRP Ledger and the force behind the Zaman wallet. Today he's going to talk to you about everything XRP Ledger and how he evangelizes it. Over to Wietse.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here, crawling out of bed, early morning, after a great party, I've been told. I'm excited to be here, excited that you're all here, and mostly excited that this small XRPL geeky crowd turned out to be a 700-800 people person event. So thanks for being here. I'm going to present something that might be a little bit tricky if you read it at first. It's the blockchain no one knows about. It's a little bit of a different angle than some of you might expect, so don't be afraid. So I'm going to take you back a couple of years, just because I know a lot of people here are considered personal friends after all these years. There are also plenty of people new here, which is great. It means the space is expanding, but not everyone might be aware what we've been doing. So I'm Wietse. I'm the founder of XRPL Labs. We've been building XRPL things for many years, more than 5 years. Which isn't even the first generation of builders. There are people here in the room who've been building basically when I was still in diapers, or that's what it feels like. Good to see those people here as well. I stumbled upon the XRPL in 2016 when I saw a presentation by David Schwartz, and David is a great guy, right? He's talking passionately about this technology and a different approach to some of the things some of us already saw with Bitcoin, for example, and other blockchain technologies, and he was very passionate about a different approach to using these technologies, this paradigm, and implementing it. And I started playing with it, had success after 7 minutes, 4-second transaction finality, which today might not feel like crazy, amazing 4 seconds. There are other chains to do that, but this is 2016. This was new, and it was so easy. It was, and that's still relevant and still unique today. It was a well-documented, standardized API. I didn't have to install all kinds of weird tools to use this technology. It was what's available in every web browser, on every client, using standardized APIs. I just plugged in, 7 minutes later, I broadcasted the transaction straight from my web browser. And 4 seconds later, I realized someone else at the other side of the world would have finality, would have a confirmed transaction. Unique, still unique today. And this was 2016, and then consider that the technology was created maybe 14 years ago. So crazy. So what are you going to do if you have access to such a great technology? You're going to, if you're a builder, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're creative, and we're at an event where everyone is, right? So you're going to find something, a small hobby project you're going to work on. You want to work on it in your spare time. You need to put this technology to use. So I started to play around, building some libraries here and there, found a community on Twitter, on Discord. Things were scattered. And it was interesting because this 2016, 2017, we had a great boom of people entering the crypto space, specifically the XRPL, which was for speculative reasons. But it brings a very good thing as well. Not saying speculation is bad, we have to deal with it, it's part of this space. But the interesting thing is if you bring a whole lot of people to this space, for whatever reason, you're going to bring geeks as well. You're going to build creative people as well. You're going to bring builders. And these people, they stay around. And these people probably notice the same things I noticed when I first looked at the XRP Ledger. That it's a great technology to build on. That it's very comprehensible, that you have a quick success, that it's powerful, that it's not some kind of weird Web3 quirky environment where you have to fully dive in, learn new terminology. Everyone understands a JSON object, and everyone understands what a payment is. You can just use it. So this was a great time, actually, because you saw a lot of good vibes, people actually building things, users building it, and there was a large audience of users as well, because they all came to this space, were excited, were willing to play with the technology. So we saw a new world where we can just F around and find out and have fun and build things, excitement. And I realized I wanted to build something that could be used by many people because I saw a technology that you can actually use in a large, maybe even retail space. So I wanted to build something that would leverage the things that the XRPL already had all these years back, still unique today. A native decentralized exchange, the native possibility to issue currencies, the native opportunity to do scaling-related things like payment channels, to do multi-siding, again, native, still unique today, interesting to build on. And what I ended up building was something that would amplify the fun of a community. I built the XRP tipbot, and some of you even used it. It's funny, all those years later, that we still look at that and you think, you know, the project from 2017, we want it back. It's no longer really viable today. Regulatory landscape changed, and that's fine, but it was a fun project. So I look at that phase, 2016, 17, 18, as the crawling phase. And Brett Garlinghouse said something, I believe it was in 2019. Brett Garlinghouse said you have to crawl before you walk, before you run. And if you apply that to the title of my presentation, I think we can start to see what running looks like. If 5 years ago we were crawling, we're just having fun, building weird things, excitement, but it was kind of geeky, right? And it was kind of unusable unless if you were in the space. And if today is walking, and it means that a larger audience can use your products, and that the technology, I mean, we all established. I think the entire space, even outside of the space, the world established that the space we're in is here to stay around. So we can actually build things for users. And then I want to take a look at what running looks like, and I hope I can inspire all of you to look at everything you're going to build from that perspective. How, if I build something, how can we run with it? So, XRP tipbot, which is a crazy project. People could send small tips to each other, small gifts. It was very, very easy to use, which led to way more adoption than I expected. Within, I believe, a little over a year, people transferred $2 million USD in value on social networks by sending a small tip, small gift. And I think the success of the XRP tipbot was that it was very easy to use. It was just a comment. You just replied, I'm going to give you a couple of XRP. And later on, even other assets issued on the XRPL. The interesting thing is that you could send it to anyone. People didn't have to be onboarded in the ecosystem. There would be a gift, value, waiting for them. They had a fun incentive to join the ecosystem. And then when you joined the ecosystem, and there's a little bit of value, which was free because someone liked your tweet, then you might as well pay it forward, right? So it grew organically because it was easy, because it was fun, because it was something not for a small bunch of crypto geeks. It was something for everyone on social media. So that's when we realized that things had to be easier as well, right? This is 2017, and everything was a push payment. Even a tip on a social network was a push payment. I decide that I'm going to send something to you. And if you look at the world around us, it's not really based on push payments. Everything is pull. Almost everything is pull. I am in a store. I want to buy pants. The store now wants something from me. They want to be paid so I can take the pants. If I'm going to watch movies, I have to pay a subscription. They want me to pay a subscription. They know the amount. They know the currency they want to receive. They know everything. They just want me to pay that. And this makes perfect sense, right? We're doing this all the time, and even in 2016, 17, we were doing this all the time. This is how retail works. You're in a store. They want you to pay. Well, first we swipe the card, then we dip the card, now we have a contactless payment. But why didn't blockchains offer this? And this is 2017, so Wallet Connect didn't even exist, right? So here we were, having fun, realizing that if we wanted to have more than just fun, if we wanted to build something everyone can use, we're going to need to introduce something that offers pool payments to the ecosystem. So what we set out to do in 2017, and I think we fully realized that. We built pool payments for the blockchain, for the XRPL specifically. Very simple, small payload. You request something, can be delivered using any channel, right? Can be a deep link on smartphone, QR scan, push notification, anything. User swipes right, it's okay. Payment gets sent over blockchain. It's messaging. It's just a handshake. And we built this, and I'm very proud to be able to say that this is basically the standard now in the entire ecosystem. This is how people interact. This is what every platform, what every project, what every web app, what everyone integrates, and this is what every user uses. And the reason why it's so easy is that the projects can build without having to worry about key management, and the users can interact with every project without having to worry about their security. Now, we were obviously not the only ones with this idea, right? This exists everywhere. It already existed in the normal payment space. We have Wallet Connect right now, which is cross-chain and interoperable. But I think this is the start of walking. This is where we stood up. This is where we stopped crawling, where we stopped copy-pasting secret keys into another app. This is where we started to walk. So, if we're walking today, we start to see what running looks like. And I think the entire space woke up. And there's a lot of focus on what should be running. And the first things are pretty visible. There's the Decentralized Recovery Alliance, great initiative. A couple of things you notice here. One, no tribalism. These are different blockchain ecosystems working together on technology to make this entire space a better place for end users. What the Decentralized Recovery Alliance does, and we're a proud founding member, we tackle the key recovery problem, right? It's not acceptable if we want to grow as a space to say, well, if you lose your secret key, too bad, right? You wanted self-custody? Comes with self-custody. You should have taken better care of your key. Unacceptable. Not going to help us with any rollout of this technology. So, at the same time, in a space where your voice can be cloned for $2 by AI, where we can have video calls with each other, and we aren't even ourselves because we get an overlay over our face, we need to look at the hybrid between technology, new technology, blockchain, and very old traditional ways of doing business or interacting. You go to each other physically, you're in the same room, you're next to each other, and you vouch for each other, and you get access to your account if you do this a couple of times, right? I go to a colleague says, yes, you're you. I go to my mom says, yes, you're you. And with a certain threshold, I regain access to my account. Very, very important. It's even the traditional way of doing things. If you lose your bank card, you go back to the bank, probably. You might do it online, which is dangerous, again, and you see the problems, but you go back to a bank, and you identify yourself, you regain access. We should make this that simple in the crypto space, to do this, and to prevent people from burning themselves. And that's in-person interactions, to regain access to very modern technology. Another thing we see is more retail-like focus, right? So it's interesting. We're here at this event organized by Ripple, and Ripple is doing a great job at attacking the enterprise space. At the same time, a lot of people here are builders looking at facing retail users, end users, and we should attack both. If not, we should attack all these different angles at the same time, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle, right? This technology can be used for all of this. I see a lot of people here in the room today, and I've interacted with a lot of people who have a more user-centric focus, end-user-centric focus, and we have to realize, and you see that the industry is going in that direction, we have to realize that the end user is not a blockchain enthusiast, it's not a Web3 geek. The end user is anyone. My mother should be an end user. She doesn't even know how to use her phone. She should still be able to leverage this technology without even realizing it. So we see better user interfaces. We see a better user experience. We see builders slowly changing their terminology, right? It even goes to the words we use. And the way we allow builders to build more exciting things and better things also means that the entire developer experience has to improve. If you're a developer, you're not familiar with the Web3 space today, and you want to build something in a Web3 environment, and you want to do something you imagine that isn't possible using just the standard, you're going to write smart contracts, right? And what we see today is smart contracts are important. Smart contracts are so important that today we're no longer at an XRPL blockchain event. We're in a multi-chain environment. We're in a multi-chain space. We're talking about side chains, and we're talking about the XRPL and an EVM side chain, so you can do more, so you can do different things. We have to make doing different things really easy as well. We're creative people. We want to attract more creative people. We want to build things we envision that don't exist yet, which means you need to have all the building blocks and all the freedom to build what you want in the most easy way possible. Because if you want to build something, if you want to build something new, and first you have to study for days and learn new terminology, you won't feel success the first evening you're starting on your side project. You're overwhelmed. So one of the things we're doing is we're bringing smart contracts to the native XRPL protocol. It's called hooks. And we're now adding a JavaScript runtime as a smart contract language to the chain. And I just mentioned terminology. We shouldn't even call them smart contracts. Why are we talking about smart contracts? This is a rule engine. This is logic you deploy to the network. So the network can enforce some things your application needs. And this is important because this allows us to do new things, but this is also important. It's very clear, we're here to stay. The environment is regulated, is going to be more regulated. End users become more important, are most important, I'd say. And end users need some protections. They need it because otherwise we're not going to have success in this space. If we want to protect end users, we need to do things in the most simple possible way to protect them, which means the average if-else routine is more than enough. If the sender of a payment is on an X number of advisory blacklists, why not block it or allow the user to decide that they want to block it, right? Or if someone just wants an easy interaction with the network and there are all kinds of complex payment types or transaction types the user has no interest in, unless maybe they opt in, then why not block it? Spam. Let's filter it out before it even happens, right? Key recovery mechanisms by storing little pieces of data on the chain. Why not make it really easy? So this is quite exciting. We're making it very easy for developers to build new things as well, natively on the XRPL protocol. You see a small example here, and I guess this is the public announcement of us now finally being ready to give developers access to this technology. I will share more examples and like a local development sandbox later today on social media. So this is walking. I want to go to running. I'm going to quickly look at what from different angles, right? What phases we went through and where we're going. So the crawling phase. How did we manage wallets and key management? We allowed people to generate a paper wallet and then ask them to copy-paste secret keys. And it was pretty normal that you'd lose access to a key every now and then. And user so end user and developer interaction was just hard. It was kind of geeky, which was fine, right? So users had to jump through a lot of hoops. Developers had to learn new terminology, and there was no composability. There was no cross-chain experience. You were in a certain ecosystem, and that was your ecosystem. And then you'd even see things like tribalism, it's still there today, getting less and less, thank goodness. But you didn't even worry about that. Onboarding users, on-ramping to Web3 environments, crawling phase 5 years ago, an absolute nightmare. Who here knows the lemon coin clip? I think most of us do. Still true to some degree today, where you have to sign up. You had to sign up at the weirdest exchanges and then send your government ID to a weird-ass exchange, or you didn't have to send anything, right? And you could just do whatever you like, and you had to find a way to get your fiat to something else, to an exchange, and then you were in this ecosystem. Some of us were ready to do that. It was a nightmare. If you want to grow an ecosystem, it was a nightmare. Developer experience, there were tools out there, and they were relatively easy to use if you knew what you were doing and were interested in digging into this Web3 space. So not the best experience for just any dev or user. And the typical user and target audience was then obviously crypto geeks. People just wanted to be part of this ecosystem, and the paradigm, the dream, the focus, the narrative was be your own bank, right? Be your own bank and be responsible for everything. And it was a kind of anarchist vibe. We're not there anymore. We're walking right now. And you see that wallet and key management gets easier. We're not there yet. We're seeing hardware and software, hybrid solutions. We're seeing NFC solutions like Tangent cards. We're seeing passkeys, which is not the answer, but a great start, right? Because passkeys then link to your Google or Apple account, and we all know that they can be a two-factor scammed, hijacked as well. So we're getting there, and there's a lot of focus on these areas. That's important. And user interaction is getting better. It's still not there yet, right? 5 years ago, I would say, people would hear me say, we're going to build a wallet my mother can use. I'm telling you, my mother can't use what we've built today, not without me explaining it. So we're getting there. And you see, for example, Coinbase launching really user-friendly new wallet products. So the focus is there, and that's good. But it's not easy enough. Because still, today, if I'm going to ask 20 people in a random environment, I'm going out into the city center of Amsterdam today, and I'm going to ask 20 people to install the average crypto wallet we use today, and I'm going to ask them to go through that without help and onboard in 3 minutes. 0. It's not going to work. So we're walking, but it's not good enough. Composability, cross-chain, that gets attention, right? We're at a cross-chain event today. So yes, we're there. We realize things are going to be cross-chain interoperable. And the dev experience tooling, it's getting better. I actually like what I see when it comes to documentation and quick starts and 101s, and it gets easier to onboard. The terminology is still too extreme, right? If you have to install something with a weird name and then install another dependency with another weird name, and then if you fire this weird command, then look, you deployed a smart contract, which is what? We know. Right? We're getting there. It's getting a lot better. Still have some steps to take. The typical target audience definitely changed. I think most of us are aware that we shouldn't target crypto geeks. We should target basically anyone. And what we're working on as an industry, as developers, as builders, is growing the space we're in. We're growing the crypto space. We are trying to attract more users to Web3. We're trying to attract more developers to Web3. And even companies are realizing that this is here to stay, so they're hiring Web3 expertise. But growing our space is hard. Scaling our current ecosystem from 200,000 monthly active users to 400,000 monthly active users takes a tremendous amount of energy. And we're not giving them the best user experience. And I think the paradigm, dream, focus shifts from... we're slowly moving towards the running phase. We are now realizing that we should target more people, more like a larger audience, which is what we're working on. And we are discussing Web 2.5, Web 2, and integration between the two worlds. That's what we're doing right now, and we're thinking about what we need to ship to make that work, which is multi-chain, which is a better user experience. But now let's go to running. Let's go to where we are going now and where we should want to be 5 years from now, right? This is, if I think about the next 5 years, this is where we should end up. And 5 years from now, how should we think about wallets and about key management? And I'm saying this as a developer to developers, right? So this is an invitation. Think about this. What are we building? How are we building things? 5 years from now, what should a crypto wallet be? What should key management be? It shouldn't. We shouldn't have to realize we're using a specific wallet for a specific purpose. We shouldn't have to worry about key management. We should be guided through the process, and the wallet should basically be where we want to be anyway. If we want to book something, a hotel room, and somehow the resources are living on a blockchain, and the value I own, the payments are going over a blockchain, then why would we need a separate wallet? I'm already in the application of, I don't know, booking.com, a hotel, anything, a travel agency. Why should I have a separate wallet? It should be embedded. If we think about, so this is user interaction as well, right? So the user shouldn't have to worry about what rails they're using, or what platform they're on, or what multi-chain environment they signed into. If we think about developer interaction, just drop the entire Web3 stuff. We're building a payments product, or we're building a resource reservation, or we're storing something, we're storing public state. That's not Web3, that's not Web3 catering Web2 people, that's web. If you think about composability and cross and multi-chain environments, again, abstract it away. Why are we even worrying about what chain it runs on or what protocol it uses? I want to get something done, I want to build something for people, people want to use it. I should be able to do that in a few lines of code without having to worry about the underlying technology. Onboarding, on-ramp. Right now, we're seeing widgets, on-ramp widgets, depending on the risk appetite of certain parties. Maybe all I need is an email address and a phone number verification, and then for a low amount, I can continue using a credit card. That's a lot better, right? New users don't have to go through an exchange to on-ramp their first money or assets to the space. But 5 years from now, I don't want to see any onboarding widget anymore, right? Some people, some organizations, some regulated entities already know who I am. I already identified myself. They will probably be the ones offering me that on-ramp, or they will maybe be the data providers to another entity that can now interact with me. So 5 years from now, there shouldn't be an on-ramp anymore. You're installing an app, you're going through a few setup steps, that was your on-ramp. That's where we should go. Dev experience, tutorials available, all those things. Again, don't try to fit Web3 into a Web2 narrative. If you want to make your first payment or receive your first payment through Stripe, we all know how easy that is, right? If Stripe accepts you, right, and all the other. But let's say you enter their sandbox and you want to receive a credit card payment. 10 lines of code, you can copy paste, and you receive your first payment. So again, that's what we should do as an industry. That should be our goal. It should be that easy. And a paradigm dream focus from here to 5 years from now. And I think 5 years from now, I think all of this summarized just means that we have to go back to the title of my presentation. We should work on the blockchain no one knows about. I'm not referring to no one knowing about the XRPL or blockchain in general. I'm referring to the fact that we succeed as an industry if no one knows we're there. So that's what we should work on. I think true success for this entire space means that we completely abstract ourselves away. So I want to challenge all of you. Don't build the next crypto product. Don't build the next Web3 product. Make things easier. Abstract things away. Work with businesses. Work with users, not with Web 1 or 2 or 3 people. If you want to organize a meetup for developers, not for the Web3 audience. And build clear APIs, build clear documentation, no fancy terminology, make things boring. So don't build to grow our ecosystem, build for 8 billion people. Build for the blockchain no one knows about. Thank you.
Thank you, Vitsa. Love the t-shirt. Good reference. All right, our next topic is about one of the best and most interesting topics in crypto today, and that's the tokenization of real-world assets. Everything from financial instruments to real estate.
Our next speakers will explain in a fireside chat how this type of use case will bring traditional financial institutions to blockchain and will continue to do so for the next decade and beyond. On stage, we'll have Graham Rodford from Archax and Marcus Infinger from Ripple. Very excited about this discussion and some announcements that they have for the group. So welcome to the stage.
Hey everyone, so great to be here with you all and seeing so many show up for Apex 2024. Tokenized real-world assets has been a major theme in crypto in the past 1 or 2 years, and we have seen significant growth with now over $170 billion of real-world financial assets tokenized on public chains, including stablecoins. However, given there's over $1 quadrillion worth of financial assets that exist in the world today, we're still really only scratching the surface. So I'm super excited to be here on stage today with Graham Rodford, the CEO of Archax, who's actually one of the pioneers in the space of bringing TradFi on-chain and leading this revolution of tokenizing financial assets. And hot off the press, earlier today, Ripple and Archax announced a new collaboration with the aim of bringing hundreds of millions of dollars of real-world assets onto the XRP Ledger over the coming 12 months, and to really help position the XRP Ledger as one of the leading chains for real-world asset tokenization. So we have lots to talk about over the next 30 minutes, but let's start with Archax and yourself, Graham. So many may have heard of Archax, but some may have not heard so much about yourself. I'd love to have you talk a little bit about the company, its vision, and also what your story is, and why this all matters to you.
Cool, yeah, thanks for having me, great to be here. My name's Graham, co-founder, CEO of Archax. Spent 20 odd years in traditional finance, mainly asset management. I got interested in Bitcoin in 2013. CTO came to me and said, do you want to invest a bit? So started getting interested in the space from there, and kind of was a bit of a passenger until around 2016, 17, when the space started to pick up. So I guess around the ICO boom, and kind of noticed a couple of things. So one being that you had to learn quite a lot to invest in the space. I mean, not really that much, but you had to get familiar with terminology. It was a bit of a new trading class, a little bit inaccessible. And the other thing we noticed was that a lot of securities started to appear on chain. So it started us thinking, okay, this technology makes sense. Probably every financial instrument in this world is going to be on chain later. So why don't we develop a product that interests people? And originally we started trying to develop a hedge fund. And the idea being that people could invest in our vehicle and we would do the more complicated work. But what we noticed was that the infrastructure just wasn't in place. There were some decent exchanges starting to emerge, but the problem was that a trader could always just withdraw all the assets, and really institutions would never have invested. So instead, we started looking at, okay, if there's no one credible out there, and we believe every instrument is moving on chain, then what does that mean? And what we thought it meant was that every financial institution in the future is going to want to work with someone credible, and being credible probably means being regulated. So we went to the FCA in 2018, which was kind of before most of the crypto regulations were in place, and we said, look, we think everything you do is going to be on chain in the future. We want to start getting the licenses now. And some confusing discussions at first, but we applied in 2019, and in 2020 we got the UK's first regulated digital securities exchange, custody and brokerage license. And while we were doing that, in parallel, they brought out something called 5MLD, which is like a VASP license, and we got the first one of those as well. So the best way of thinking about us is kind of a Venn diagram of securities and crypto. We can do everything in both boxes, traditional or crypto, but where they overlap, that's really where we specialize in digital securities.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about competitors. Aren't you afraid or worried that basically the TradFi institutions you're engaging with may adopt your value prop over time, or any new entrants, or are you not worried at all at this stage?
Yeah, so we try and think about competitors a lot. It's quite hard because we touch so many different bits. So, you've obviously got the traditional guys like the LSEs, NYSEs, NASDAQs, and then you've got the crypto guys like Coinbase, Kraken, I guess Binance and the like as well. But really what we found is the traditional players, they know this is the future and they're looking to be involved rather than be disrupted. But the existing world's quite fragmented. So the LSE is just an exchange. They don't really have an order management system, a custodian, a broker all connected. They rely on the rest of the ecosystem. So it's quite hard for them to compete in this specific space. And then the crypto guys have been making so much money that going down the regulated route doesn't really appeal to them because it's been much slower. And also some of the things that they've done in the past make regulators a little bit more wary of them. So we've been able to operate pretty freely. I'd say there's a couple out there that are interesting. So Securitized in the US. I don't think they have a custodian, but they're kind of leading the way, especially in the US on the tokenization side of things. Then in Switzerland, you've got Six Exchange. You've got a subsidiary dedicated to it called SDX. And there's some in Asia as well that are starting to pop up, Hashkey and the like. So it's starting to gradually develop globally, but it's taken so long to get in place that we don't just have the regulations. We've got kind of 6 years of knowledge of this place, of trying to work out how to navigate the ecosystem.
Okay, you sound pretty comfortable.
Well, we do the space moving faster, but I don't think people are rushing at the moment to build digital securities infrastructure. But now so many people are talking about it, I'm sure that's going to change pretty soon.
Awesome. I know all you guys want to hear about is this new collaboration between Archax and Ripple. So let's get into the heart of that. What does it mean more broadly? And also, what does it mean specifically for all the XRPL users and developers here in the room? Why should everyone care? What do you expect to see in terms of types of assets and issuers on XRPL 12 months from now?
Yes, part of the challenge that we've had is that working with the traditional players is a challenge. So we've kind of gone down the route of build everything yourself. So we've got the custodian and the exchange, and the bit that was really obviously missing for us was the tokenization bit. Now, there's quite a few tokenization platforms out there, and we gladly work with all of them. But as they all charge per issuance, and I'm doing things like tokenizing the S&P 500, it costs you a fortune if you work with third parties. So we decided to build our own tokenization engine, and within that we built the functionality we think is needed for securities. And we've known the Ripple XRPL team for some time now, and we've always kind of liked the technology as well. So we've decided to implement it into our tokenization engine. So what that means in terms of a product is everything we're doing is available on XRPL. So every security that's already available through us. So we've already tokenized UK equities, UK gilts. Aberdeen own us. We've tokenized their money market funds, and BlackRock as well. They're all available on our platform now. And more specifically to the community, hopefully it means we're kind of more of a useful partner. So we already have XRP trading on our venue, so people can trade that in its simplest form. But if people want to create tokens on XRPL, they can do it with us. If they want to create securities, they can do it with us. If they want to custody them, we use Ripple Custody, formerly Metico, which is now all embedded within our system. So hopefully those that are looking to really work on the digital security space can partner with us and have easier access to RWA.
And also integrating some of the assets that will be issued on the XRPL in the infrastructure and the ecosystem of the XRP Ledger, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyone that's building on it can gladly work with us. I mean, we literally have the custodian, the exchange. We can admit these things for trading, whether they're crypto or securities. We've got our license in the UK. We're applying for another one in Europe at the moment. We're able to distribute into a number of countries. We're a qualified custodian in the US. So anyone working on securities who's looking for a regulated partner, hopefully we can help out there.
Awesome. How many funds or asset managers are you working with now? Can you talk a little bit about the pipeline you guys have and the existing partnerships you have in place?
Yeah, so on our site, quite publicly, we have Aberdeen and BlackRock's funds there. They're available. It's now possible to get them on XRPL. So there's 6 funds on the site, euros, dollars, pounds, different money market funds. But we don't put up there all the funds we have access to. So we've actually got about 80 funds available publicly. And that includes, everything: real estate, private equity, private credit, pretty much the sort of things that we would hold in our investment products like ISAs. They're the sort of things we have available. But we actually have a much longer pipeline. We're not public about. We like to make them available, when we first put them on chain and fired a seed investor. We've got about another 7 investment managers right now that we're midway through distribution agreements with. And I'm pretty sure at that point we'll have the largest range of funds on chain. So there's a lot focusing around money market funds and private credit, private equity, but there's way more beyond that.
Definitely feels like it's very much happening. In terms of use cases, when you're engaging with traditional finance, TradFi, what are they trying to solve for their customers with tokenization? And where are they seeing the most immediate sort of successes? Curious to hear just in terms of what problems do they want to solve using tokenization with financial assets?
Yeah, it's this kind of theme of crawl, walk, run's quite interesting as well, because I think the investment managers that are the most forward-looking are the ones getting most out of this. It's not just what it can do right now, but in the future. So, right now, I'm sure everyone's seen this in tokenization. People were kind of talking a lot about fractionalization and making illiquid products more liquid. So real estate was, commonly talked about, but actually it's gone in the other direction. We're looking at money market funds a lot, and tokenized treasuries. I'm sure everyone's seen those sorts of products, and kind of why are they appealing? And a few reasons really. Stablecoins are about 140 odd billion, I think, at the moment, and they keep all the yield on people's products. So the first thing is, people are realizing they're giving up 5% of their money. So if I'm a crypto trader and I want to go risk off, then why would I hold a stable coin if I can be earning 5.5% in a regulated money market fund? So they've seen a bit of an opportunity there. Around that as well, I think asset managers are realizing that, their old way of doing it, lots of paper, lots of documentation, is not the way of the future. They want to get their phone out, press buy. So they're realizing there's a new type of consumer and they have to lean more into digitalization. So there's kind of some short-term reasons for that. Money market funds are priced at 1 as well. So that means, you know what they're worth at any point in time. So they start to be usable like stablecoins for payment. So that's why we're seeing a lot around that area. But it's quite hard still to find people that don't have access to a money market fund, but now want it. That's a bit of a challenge because the things that it's useful for aren't yet available. But the advantages in the future are definitely there. So again, if you're a hedge fund, what you'd typically be doing is trading all day long. And at the end of the day, if you've got cash in one of your prime brokers, you might think, okay, I'm not sure I want to take overnight risk, but you'd sweep it into a money market fund. When you do that, you suddenly kind of give up the utility value of the cash. You've just got, a holding somewhere. But tokenization of money market funds means, I have something now. I have a money market fund, but I can transfer it, I can spend it, I can use it as collateral. It actually has a lot of the same functionality of cash. So you start to realize that there's a world there where, if I can be in an investment product all the time that I'm not invested, then maybe there's less of a need for cash.
Cool. So it's fair to say, up until a year ago or something, TradFi mostly engaged around pilots using blockchains, and now we're really seeing this transition into actual production and, just kind of harnessing the benefits of this technology, right?
Yeah, exactly. They almost all start the conversation now. We're not interested in a POC.
That's awesome.
We're not interested in a pilot. And there's a couple of ways tokenization has generally been happening. So one way, which is the most common way, is, Archax invests in a fund and we hold it. So much like the way stablecoins work, that really underlying is a load of fiat held in an account and each token represents a unit of that fiat. The way that beneficial ownership tokens or mirror works is that Archax holds the underlying traditional security and we create tokens that represent that. Now, that's not the pure vision, but the token that's created ostensibly is the same as a pure token. It's still a security. You can transfer it. You can receive cash on chain. But the pure vision that everyone has is this idea of natively digital securities. So what that really means is the legal title exists on chain, not that Archax is holding it and we create a token.
Thank you. Just the last one on that thread. To me, it feels like the puck is headed towards, like deploying tokenization on public or integrating with public blockchains as opposed to private blockchains. And I feel that's something that's really evolved. And the sort of watershed moment was with BlackRock and Biddle launching on Ethereum. Would you agree in your conversation this is kind of like, the direction of travel?
Yeah, I think it's the direction for sure. It wasn't 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of people were, using Corda or private chains, and we still see a lot of subnets or permissioned chains. But generally speaking, I think everyone kind of thinks of it broadly as the internet beats intranet. So, you're more available to everyone if you're on a public network. That's kind of the idea. So you still need to have AML KYC done. We use whitelists in most of our securities because it's easier. But you can see that being solved in the future with digital IDs and the like. But they're all talking about public chains. I mean, the Biddle case is actually a really interesting one. It's a great product. The Securitize and BlackRock created the fund in BVI. But what's particularly neat about it, I mean, it's got loads of pros and cons, but the thing that's really good about it is that you can send it to Circle and get USDC back at any time you want. And there's always been this conundrum with tokenized money market funds. If I hold it, then great. During the week, I can sell it and get stable coins and buy crypto. But on a Saturday afternoon, even if you had a tokenized money market fund, you'd have to go and redeem it to get your cash to buy crypto, but not with this product. 24/7, you send it to Circle, you get your USDC. So a hedge fund can be risk off, and get their USDC on a Saturday afternoon and go trading. And the reason for me that's so exciting is they didn't have to go back to the traditional world. They didn't have to touch the fiat world. It's all self-contained within the digital world. So, we're taking a lot of inspiration from that and thinking about how that future looks.
Great segue into stablecoin. As you know, Ripple will launch its own stablecoin second half of this year. And so what role do you see stablecoins playing in all this?
Yeah, I think everyone puts things in the buckets, I think, or at least I do, crypto and stablecoins and then RWA, digital securities. But the reality is the securities piece, the real value only comes when you have something like RLUSD able to be used in line with the security. So, for example, if you want to have, everyone talks about atomic settlement, but when you go and look at most atomic settlement offerings in the space, all they are database entries where they're swapping beneficial ownerships of cash and tokens. But if you actually have someone buying an asset using a stablecoin and someone selling an asset on the same technology, that's something that didn't really exist before. In the traditional world, the fiat rails are over here, your asset rails are over here, and you have to try and make them talk. But if they're on the same technology, then you can ask questions. If you've delivered this and you've delivered that, then settle. You can start paying corporate actions using stablecoins. You can, part of the interest and dividends that now exist in our system, we can pay out in XRPL. So if you've got a distributing fund, we could pay RLUSD out as a dividend, or we could pay scrip dividends of more of the same shares on XRPL. So, stablecoins really are one of the big keys to unlocking this space. So, it's great you guys are going into the space, and great that Jack's leading it as well, because Jack's a great guy.
Awesome. Why have you decided to lean into XRPL? Why do you think XRPL is uniquely positioned to be a leading blockchain to help bring TradFi assets on blockchains, basically?
Yeah, there's techie reasons and kind of non-techie ones, I guess. The kind of non-side is we've known the team a long time. Really getting well with all the team there, fun and really open, and cross-border as well. So we've built up a relationship over 5 years. That's important for us. And then also the size of the company of Ripple, the balance sheet. It's important that the company's there and legitimate. A lot of financial institutions, if they see a small balance sheet, then it can concern them. And also the technology's battle tested. So it's been around a while. It's been used in anger. The uptime is there for everyone to see. So they're kind of the general reasons that we look at it. And then more specifically on the technology, it's fast enough. the transaction costs are low, there's no MEV issues that exist, there's trust lines in place, so things like the whitelisting I was talking about earlier, putting sanctions in place, they're all important. And the functionality that's being built natively on the chain, so you don't necessarily have to worry about people developing smart contracts and whether they're audited, but a lot of the functionality that we need is natively available on chain just for people to call, so it makes it a bit easier to develop against.
Fair enough. Shifting gears a little bit, and talking about the regulatory puzzle piece to all this. When you first engaged with regulators, how was their reaction, and how do you compare that to today's engagements you have with regulators?
Yeah, it was the first conversation was interesting because pretty much, I mean, we weren't that early, but 2018, most people at the regulator hadn't really seen this as something that was coming. And in the UK, we hadn't even started any of the consultation papers around digital. So a lot of what we were talking to them about was educational. And thankfully, in the UK, I mean, it's principles-based regulation anyway, but a lot of what they do is tech agnostic. So we were very much like, look, securities are securities. This isn't a new asset class. I mean, ignoring Bitcoin, because maybe you could think of that as something different. We were very much there to talk about securities, so Vodafone on a blockchain, and we were making the argument, look, this is still Vodafone, it's still an equity. The only difference is your cap table is stored on a distributed ledger rather than on an Excel, on a piece of paper, whatever. So that they got that. And when we were going through the process and they learned a bit more, at the same time, the kind of ICO market was taking off, you were starting to see some issues. So thankfully, those issues only started to come toward the end of our application process when the crypto asset registration came through. And at that point, we got the first. And obviously, we're very much arm's length from the regulator, but I think we've worked well over time. We work well with the Bank of England, Treasury, and the regulator, trying to help them talk through new things that are emerging. So that relationship's been good. And then more broadly, I think across the world, you've seen all of the regulators move in this direction. Pretty much every country out there has some sort of crypto asset guidance, some sort of crypto regulation. Actually, most countries pretty much say securities are securities and we're tech agnostic. And now you're seeing things like the DLT pilot regime. You're seeing HKMA sandbox for stablecoins. You've got a similar sandbox in the UK and for market infrastructure. So you've gone from a place of kind of a little bit of reluctance to accept crypto, I think, to everyone thinking, okay, this technology is really powering everything, and the regulators gradually realize that they need to embrace it.
Continuing on that thread of challenges, it's fair to say there remain clear challenges. Obviously, regulatory aspects on a global scale being one of them in terms of RWA, mass adoption, using blockchain technology. Would you say regulatory challenges are the single biggest challenges, or are there any other challenges, threats you're seeing kind of being the showstoppers towards really significantly more scale? What keeps you up at night?
Yeah, probably nothing to do with this, but the biggest challenge, which is still ridiculous today, is banking. That's not just a securities problem. I suspect most companies in this room who are in crypto struggle to get a bank account.
That's a little bit contradictory, though, right?
Yeah,
you're engaging with or financial institutions on helping them to come on chain. At the same time, as a crypto native company, you can't get a bank account.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
does that make sense?
It drives me crazy when you see them sitting on a panel talking about innovation, but you can't get a bank account. And we're not just a very regulated crypto company. We're one of the most regulated companies in the UK. We have a full custody license, a full exchange license, and we can't get a bank account because people are still worried about crypto. And banks get to operate independently, so they kind of get to choose their customers. So look, that's a bit of an aside. That's a big problem for the industry that really needs to be resolved. I think it's even more of a problem in the US than it is in the UK. But since most things are in dollars, it's a big issue. Outside of that, everyone knows RWA is coming. Larry Fink's talking about it now. It's great. It's all there. But even though they're coming, building the full infrastructure is quite challenging. So, for example, let's say we tokenized Archax equity on XRPL. That's pretty easy for me to do today. Now, when you want to trade it on a secondary market, the rules in the UK and a lot of jurisdictions globally say you need to go and register that security into a central securities depository, a CSD. When you do that, a CSD typically uses old technology. So, I go there with my pretty XRPL token, and they immediately put it back into an old database format, and my token's kind of valueless, and the core books and records are in the CSD. That's a problem. We're building a CSD out of Luxembourg. Hopefully, we're pretty close to getting that license over the line. Thank you. That will help solve that issue. And the other issue is the one of liquidity. In crypto, it's easy to get liquidity. It's easy to get market makers because Bitcoin trades everywhere. So a market maker can hedge their risk, trade 24/7. If I go to them and say, hey, I've tokenized my house on XRPL, can you make me a market? They're like, well, I can't hedge my risk. I'm going to have a wide spread. You're going to have to pay me. It's actually really challenging to do that. So it's much easier if you tokenize something that's already traded, or you tokenize something with good price predictability. So maybe a money market fund or the like.
Yeah. Sure, many in here echo some of these pain points. Obviously, very focused on the UK. Do you think, or do you see any other particular geographies where you think they're particularly ripe for RWA adoption, given, regulatory aspects, but also other things like, incentives to leapfrog in terms of, technology adoption for, financial prosperity, etc.?
Yeah, it's, well, we've actually got our European application happening here in the Netherlands. So we actually find the regulator here and the regulation to be quite forward-looking. And then obviously across the whole of Europe, you've got MiCA coming into place as well. So the whole of Europe's a pretty, good place to operate. I'd say, though, that there are those jurisdictions that are harder to get your registrations in than others. So I think, there's a lot of regulation in the space, but there's a lot of people playing regulatory arbitrage. But I'd say generally Europe's in pretty good shape. Singapore and MAS seem to be charging forward. Project Guardian has attracted the interest of a lot of people. Hong Kong, Korea's moving forwards, albeit in an internal shape. The US, I thought, was really struggling to kind of find its footing, especially when Silvergate, Signature, and Silicon Valley all had their issues the other year. But then the BlackRock ETF, kind of has changed everything a little bit for me. I mean, it's the most successful ETF ever, which is kind of incredible. And I think I read yesterday they've got like 300,000 Bitcoin. I might have that slightly wrong, but the value of that is pretty obscene. I think it's something like 21 billion just in this ETF alone. So it feels like the US is gradually starting to move forwards as well. I think places like Luxembourg and I believe France, where they've changed the law to allow natively digital securities, you're allowed to have your equity on chain. That's quite important. But generally speaking, like the direction of positive trend in every jurisdiction is there. There's very few places now that aren't saying this is the future.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's just become too big to ignore. Also from a political point of view, I think the realization has sunk in that, hey, you can't just be blatantly against crypto because it may actually, impact the vote. And so democracy is really, a force at play here as well, which is good to see for us all. Now let's get the crystal ball out. This RWA hype has been around for many years, formerly known as STOs. And obviously it's grown, as initially mentioned in my intro. In terms of like looking at the adoption cycle, really 5 years out or whatever, like what do you expect? Where are we at right now? What do you see in, say, 5 years from now? And more specifically, end of 2025, like what's the total volume of tokenized financial assets you expect to see on blockchains in total?
I think we're still early in terms of the assets, but the infrastructure and the pieces are now all getting in place. I think the Biddle fund we talked about earlier is $500 million alone. The Franklin Templeton Benji is like 350, and then you've got Ondo's tokens at like 150. So there's a kind of $1 billion in these treasury alone products developing. And then I don't know where crypto's at now, around 2.5 trillion, something like that. And when you look over at the equity side, you've got Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, they're all like 3 trillion. They're all bigger than everything in crypto. Like the size of the opportunity is the largest thing that we've seen in crypto, the amount of RWA. So you don't really need much volume to be moving to make a significant impact. And if someone like DTCC or Euroclear says we're using a blockchain, then overnight all of those assets become digital. So I'm unsurprisingly pretty bullish on this. So over the next 5 years, I think you'll see more issuances becoming natively digital. It wouldn't surprise me if in 5 years' time that tends to be the way that most issuances are allowed. By the end of 25, it's going to be getting close to $1 trillion, maybe even up to 3. I'd say,
Excluding stablecoins.
Excluding stablecoins, yeah. I mean, the space is like 1.4 quadrillion or something like that. I know, and the existing financial market is one thing, but there's kind of a new financial market emerging as well.
Right.
Like metaverse loans, metaverse mortgages, like all of these things that never really existed before, and you put them together, the future financial market is even bigger. So, in terms of regulated products, I'm pretty comfortable that
Sending more letters with emails rather than when emails didn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. It's on the record. Lourdes, thank you so much for joining me on the panel. Thank you so much for joining us at Apex. Really excited about our collaboration, and actually with many of you together to really see XRPL lead the charge in bringing TradFi assets on chain. Cool. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Graham and Marcus. Hundreds of millions of RWAs on chain. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. But once you have these assets on chain, what do you do with them? Our next panel will talk about all things trading. Our panelists have built platforms and software designed to make trading NFTs as well as other types of tokens like RWAs easier and faster. On stage, let's welcome Adam Kagi of XRP Cafe, Michael Feng of Hummingbot, and Artur Kurjakulov of XRP Market, as well as our moderator, XRP community leader, Crypto Airy.
Good morning, everybody. What a great event this has turned out to be. So many people in this expanding ecosystem. It's really fun. It's really fun. So this morning, I'm joined with some really great talent. We've got Adam, and they'll introduce themselves a little bit more, but Adam, Michael, and Artur, really great builders in the space. And really, we're in this ever-evolving landscape, which is finance, underpinned by blockchain technology. And it has emerged as a game changer, for sure. And it offers this decentralized and hybrid solutions for opportunities that have participants engaging on platforms that have eliminated the intermediaries often, which is pretty cool. Providing open and the permissionless access to financial services, talking lending, borrowing, staking, earning yield. We've got liquidity pools to play in, the AMM, very, very promising mechanism. And I imagine there's going to be services that are yet to be born from this technology. So while DeFi offers opportunities for innovation and financial empowerment, it also comes with risks. So I just want to be sure that we know that the regulatory uncertainty and the market volatility, none of what we talk about on this particular stage constitutes as financial advice. And I know that everybody says, do your own research. But that doesn't mean listening to a YouTuber. It means do your own firsthand research. So joining me today is Adam, Michael, Artur. I'm going to have them introduce themselves because this is a really great lineup. They're building the future not only of the XRPL ecosystem, but they're really building the future for blockchain. So Adam, please tell us a little bit about your solution.
Yeah, so I'm Adam Kagi. I'm the co-founder of XRP Cafe. We're an all-encompassing NFT platform where we enable users to buy, sell, and utilize NFTs on the XRP Ledger. I'm also the co-founder of First Ledger, which is a Telegram trading bot, and the co-founder of Honey Cluster, which is a Web3 infrastructure and data services company. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Michael.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Mike. I'm one of the co-founders of Hummingbot, an open source project that helps people build automated trading bots. So the problem we solve is that for a lot of small token issuers, they don't want to hire an expensive trading firm to do market making. So they can just download our software for free and use that. And for a lot of people who are trying to start a new trading firm or a new market making business, well, for them, they don't want to hire lots of engineers. So they can also just use Hummingbot. And we're really proud to announce that we're finally integrated into XRP Ledger in our next release. So I think now, for the first time, anyone can kind of be a market maker on XRPL, and any token project can kind of rely on themselves instead of having to hire lots of folks.
Yeah, brilliant. Arthur.
Hello, everyone. My name is Arthur. I am co-founder at XP Market. And at XP Market, we're building a decentralized finance platform which is driven by data analytics. And our goal is to make a decentralized finance on XRP Ledger as accessible as possible, both for the newcomers and the seasoned traders and investors. So we are building a platform that suits everyone.
Yeah, thank you. So let's get going. I've got a question for all of them to start off, and that is the biggest challenge that we have in this space is creating a user experience that attracts new people to use their assets. And we want something that's approachable and simple. And it's a challenge. You've got the technology on the one side, and then you've got the user experience on the other side. So what I'm curious is, how do you achieve that with your solutions, each of you? Because I know each of you are challenged with unique user experiences, flows that you've overcome. So I really would like to hear that. I'll start with Adam.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things that we've kind of prided ourselves on when we first started building XRP Cafe and some of the other solutions was just in terms of creating a clean aesthetic and something that was really simple and intuitive to use right away. And I think one of the biggest aspects of that is really abstracting away some of the complexity of Web3 and utilizing some of these tools to make the onboarding just really, really simple and easy. I want to give a shout out to our UX designer, Tippy. He worked a number of years at Microsoft and has been a real veteran in the industry. So we're really excited to have him as our UX designer and really, really happy he's with us. So. Yeah,
nice. Nice shout out. Michael, how do you handle this?
Well, I think I spent a lot of time in finance, and I've learned that to have a healthy financial market, you need to have both the retail traders, but also the professional liquidity providers. Because a lot of part of the trading experience is like liquidity. Be able to have very low slippage and be able to transact in size. So to do that, you need to empower the liquidity providers in every ecosystem. And I think if you look at XRPL right now, there isn't a lot of liquidity because of the lack of liquidity providers. Hummingbot is a tool for liquidity providers. And in the past, I'm a bit apologetic to say that it was kind of a janky command line tool. But our next release, which is Hummingbot 2.0, we finally added an application layer on top of it called Dashboard, where you can now backtest your strategies, you can configure them, you can launch lots of bots at the same time and manage them. So finally, for liquidity providers, the UX is so much better, and I think it will catalyze more adoption of Hummingbot, especially on XRPL.
Yeah, that's so multiple bots at once.
You can run a whole fleet.
Wow. Okay. Oh, Arthur, how are you handling this?
So when we started XP Market, the main issue was obviously user experience. And we had to overcome it. And to do so, we first became the users of our platform ourselves. So we knew what we wanted as a user and both as a developer, and we started building it. Then once the product was launched to the community, we started to gather the feedback. So we started to learn what are the pain points, what the community wants, what they're missing, or maybe what is too excessive that they do not need. And after that, we gathered all this feedback. We looked what our competitors do, what industry standards are, and we tried to learn both from ourselves, from the community, and for the builders in the area. We looked for the most optimal solutions, and we tried to optimize them for both what we are building and to the needs of our community. Because again, it is very important to understand who is your target audience. You have to understand their pain points, because while we are all in the Web3, it does not mean that we all have the same issues. Even though people from the XRP Ledger and Ethereum might be doing similar things, their user journey is very different. So we have to adapt and learn from that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm going to stick with you, Arthur, on this one. I think the majority of the XRP trading happens on centralized exchanges. And what I'm curious is, what are the advantages when you begin to have a trading experience using the native DEX, the decentralized exchange, on the XRPL?
That's a really great question, because when you trade on the DEX, there is one fundamental difference that you have to understand. When you're trading on decentralized exchange, you're in a full control of what you're holding and what you're doing. So at the same time, it can be a blessing, because you're in charge, you make the decisions, and you control the risks. But it also can be a curse, because you gain so much responsibility that you have to control your keys, you have to control your crypto, you have to control everything yourself. And for some people, that might be stressful. So again, on one side, you're in full control. On another side, there are some other risks. But when you trade on the DEX, again, you're in full control. But when we talk specifically about XRP Ledger DEX, so that becomes interesting, because with the release of AMM, now DEX and AMM, they basically talk to each other. And they provide you the best trade that you can get. At the same time, you still have to be aware of the liquidity limits and what you're doing. You have to understand whether you want market order or limit order. So all those tiny things have to compound. But overall, even when you're trading on the DEX, let's not forget that on XRP Ledger, there is 0% fee when you're trading, compared to centralized exchanges. So it really depends on what you're looking for. If you want more control, DEX definitely for you. If you have some stress managing so much control, maybe centralized exchange is something you're looking for.
Good. I think I'm going to jump over to Michael. I want to know, at what point, what are you thinking about when you design this trading bot? You know, how do they actually work? Because maybe there's a lot of people in this room who've never used a bot.
Sure. Yeah, so the first thing I want to clear up is there's two types of trading bots. There's closed source and there's open source. So closed source is like Telegram bots like Unibot and Maestro, or platforms like 3 Commas, or when you run a bot on Binance or OKX. I think those are fine, but they don't offer you the same level of control that you want as a developer. So most developers use open source bot frameworks, and Hummingbot is probably one of the leading ones in this space. And so for the open source guys, we look at bots as a program, something that loops over every tick and then executes a set of logic based on market conditions. So for example, if you're a market-making bot, you don't want to just set your spreads out there and kind of let them hang out there. Ideally, you want to use market data to assess what the volatility is in every second and automatically adjust your bots so that your spreads widen when the market's volatile and they narrow when the market's less volatile. So to do that, you basically need some type of engine, unless you don't want to build all yourself. So over the past 5 years, Hummingbot's really a framework. We standardize integrations to different exchanges, both centralized and decentralized. So you can write the same strategy logic, and that code will run the same way on every single exchange. So we have a community building connectors, but we also have a community building strategies. So our framework has kind of like defined frameworks for different types of strategies, like arbitrage, market making, and directional. And so people can kind of adopt the common templates and then customize their own strategies on top of that, and then develop different configurations for them. And so we kind of see a world where in the future, people will share both the strategies, their configurations, and then you also have people building integrations to lots of new exchanges. And so that's how we kind of see this community-based open source project being able to kind of eventually achieve the same kind of level of proficiency as some of the largest quant trading firms out there.
I can't wait. I think I'm going to jump over to Adam. I'm curious on how you envision the future solution of NFTs. I'm talking beyond an NFT that brings us some beautiful, colorful language of images in our life. I want to think about the licensing rights maybe that can go along with that. Or I want to maybe explore with you some of the new revenue streams that are going to fall under paid permissions for AI training. That's also something that we might see. But I'm kind of curious what you have planned for expanding beyond that and bringing value back to the creators.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, especially around the AI of using IP and wrapping a contract around that, and it's interesting because it wasn't that long ago that the New York Times actually sued OpenAI and Microsoft because they're using their copyrighted material to train those LLMs. So there's a lot of legal gray area in that aspect, but no, I feel like that's a perfect use case of wrapping contracts as NFTs and then using even some escrow and using on-chain royalties for that in a trustless, immutable way. So that's really cool. And I think one of the bigger things that this has kind of been a central theme at this conference is RWA and tokenization, and that's something that we're really focused on, especially engaging B2B partners and just bringing those to life on the ledger and bringing some of those assets on the ledger. So no, we're super excited about that.
Can't wait to see that become a reality for the creators. Artur, I'm going to go back over to you. I know you love data. I've had you on the channel a couple times, and I love data too, and you're really good at it, especially your analytics, one of the best in the space. So I'm curious, what features do you have on your platform that allow participants in this space to make informed decisions in the decentralized trading environment? And how do these analytics differ from maybe what we see on centralized exchanges?
So the beauty of decentralized exchange and trading on the DEX is that it is an open ledger. So it's open book, and you can see everything that's happening there. And if you're quite good with data, you can go look at the blockchain and decode and see what the real situation is. If you talk about centralized exchanges, then most of the volume is driven by market makers. Essentially an event where one entity is trading with itself to build an extra volume for whatever reason. There could be multiple reasons. And you cannot see that. You cannot decode it from the data that centralized exchange is presenting to you. But on the DEX, you can see that, and you can see that this volume is purely organic, and you can actually see how many people are trading. So one of the parameters we are using on XP Market when we are trying to evaluate the quality of the project or the level of interest that it has, we do actually track the average of weekly traders. So this is a number that shows how many unique wallets purchased or sold a particular asset. So that indicates whether there's a lot of interest or interest is going down. We are also tracking historical data. So we can tell you later the trends, or you can go as a user or as a company, look at this data, build it or plot yourself, and maybe make some projections on the future performance based on what you have seen in the past. So again, since it is an open ledger, you can really do a lot of interesting things, and they're all open and verifiable, something that you will not achieve with centralized exchange, where you have to trust the third party, and the whole idea of the blockchain that it removes the trust layer.
Yeah, yeah. I love to see all of your new build-outs too with using the data. I really enjoy it. So Michael, when you think about your programming of these bots, these many, many bots, these army of bots, can you share with us how Hummingbot has historically performed on that data as well?
Sure. Yeah. So one thing that we don't track our users, because that's why the use is open source. So we actually don't know exactly how they all performed. However, we do capture aggregate level stats because some of the users choose to report like how much aggregate volume anonymized they produce. So in the past year, based on our tracking, Humble users have done about $27 billion of volume across 200 plus exchanges. And those are only the users who choose to report. There's probably other institutions out there who just turn it off because they're larger companies. But I think to me, actually, I want to give more advice in terms of like how do you actually start doing trading bots? Because I think it's really important to understand what game you're playing. One game that a small player probably doesn't want to play is market making for, let's say, the BTC USDT pair on Binance, because that's probably the most liquid market in crypto, and you're really competing with Citadel and Wintermute and Jane Street there. But there's other games you can play where, for instance, market making on new tokens on XRPL. There aren't many players there. The big guys just aren't there yet. And so as a small player, that's actually an advantage for you because you can act more nimbly and provide liquidity in a very illiquid market and take advantage of that, right? So first, pick your right game. And the second is have a thesis for how you're going to win even in that market. So it's kind of like, if you're market making, you're not just market making in general, you probably want to identify a specific token that you're excited about. And so it's like, if it goes up, you profit, but then you also kind of benefit from providing liquidity during that range. So I think it's really understand to not like just blindly run bots because that's how you lose money, but instead think of it as an iterative approach that eventually you can prove out a thesis.
Can't wait. Like I said, I'm excited to try this. I think we'll move to Adam, and we're going back to NFTs because he's really got this wonderful platform that provides that solution. And being that you're across many regions around the globe, I imagine that would be interesting to see what region the APAC region brings that's a little bit different. Because I know that there's going to be a lot of firepower put into the APAC region. And so I'm curious to ask you, Adam, what do you see as a differentiator? What's the difference when you see NFTs coming from Japan and Korea, for example?
Yeah, so the APAC market's been really interesting to us just because it's so culturally different than the US and Europe and some of these other countries that we typically engage with. And there's a huge language barrier, but we've had a huge outpouring of support, especially from Japan, just in the last 6 months. And it's overtaken a lot of our user groups and other countries from our user base. So they are the #1 country on our platform right now. So it's pretty impressive to see some of the growth coming from that region and the art and just the assets and the creators that they're creating on our platform is it's really high quality. So we're super excited to engage with them. Also, like we're really excited about South Korea and the Singapore region, Philippines. We're seeing growth in that region as well. And it's not just benefiting us, but I think it's going to benefit the whole ledger in terms of the whole APAC region, and that's going to be a real source of growth going forward for everybody.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see the focus in that part of the world. So I'm going to finish up with one question for all, and it's about mainstream adoption, because that's essentially the goal for all of us, not only the people you've seen on the panel, but even with everyone who's in this audience. And with the financial applications that are coming, also really amazing. As pioneers and builders in this space, how do you reach new users? You're educating them, you're teaching them new tools. We've got this crazy social media that's very noisy. How does everyone become part of a new member of the ecosystem? How are you drawing that audience? And what I really want is for the audience to a little bit participate intellectually with these answers. I would like to hear from the panelists what they think you all could do to increase that adoption. I'll start with you, Adam.
Yeah, so I've been to a lot of conferences in the last 2 years, and I've engaged with a variety of different people, both holders of XRP and non-holders of XRP, and there's just a kind of a central theme that when I talk to them, there's very low lack of awareness around NFTs, that you can even participate in a DeFi protocol on chain and some of these other dApps that people are building. And I would say that the biggest advice I would give would be to become an advocate for the network. Go out there and use the word of mouth, the power of people, and just engage within the community. That's really been one of the things that's worked for us, and I believe, on a broader sense, it's going to help engage everybody around the world.
Good answer. Michael, how should everybody in this room do it?
I kind of see crypto almost like an extension of the open source movement that has really kind of grown a lot in the last 20, 30 years. So today, if you look at a lot of large companies, a lot of them are actually running open source projects under the hood, like MySQL or Linux, and that's powering their entire operations. And I think, to me, that's really going to be the future of crypto as well, because ultimately what crypto is about is creating open source financial protocols that everyone can use. So I think, as someone who runs an open source project, I've always been amazed at the willingness of people to just contribute. From the very day we open source our stack, we had people who were like, "Hey, can I add an integration to this exchange? Can I add the strategy?" And that's really what's powered Hummingbot's growth over the past 5 years. So I think, to me, I feel like there's actually a lot that people can do out there just to try stuff out. Someone launches a new project, someone launches a new DEX, just try it out and see how, if it works for you, if it actually helps you make money, great, use it. But also think about how you can contribute to that project. Go on the Discord, look at the GitHub issues and see, where you can kind of add in, because I think that's how we can grow this community.
Yeah, it's another great answer. So we'll finish up today's panel here with Artur. How should everybody help with that adoption?
So I have been in crypto for 7 years, and what I have noticed that no matter what trend emerges, what people do, they go and try themselves. So they try to learn first and then figure it out later. So imagine you're buying a new car, and in this analogy, blockchain will be your new car. Not many people know that a car comes with user manual. But if you buy a new car, do you actually read user manual? The answer is probably no. Because what you first do, well, you know the pedals, you know how to switch the gearbox, and you're just trying it. Then you figure out what the buttons do. So basically, you're using trial and error method. And this helps to keep your mind fresh and clean, because you will not take, let's say, bad information on something that is pre-deployed into your brain. But only when something does not work or actually breaks, then you go to user manual. And this is how you try and navigate the blockchain. So basically, the universal rule of adoption of the blockchain, whenever it's possible, go and play with it, try, experiment, break the things. Probably some of your things will break at some point. And this is when you reach for user manual. And that user manual can be YouTube. You can go and look for what people on the YouTube can teach you about it. Go for articles, read maybe a book about trading. There are amazing books about trading, which is mostly psychology. But yeah, always go, try new things. Do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid to fail, because once you fail, you become stronger and you take some lessons out of it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I just want to say also to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for coming. It's a bigger event than ever before, and your participation is very appreciated. And I'm grateful to be up here with such great talent. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks Adam, Michael, Artur, and Eri. Our next panelists will discuss how the XRPL is becoming more interoperable with other chains, all in service of a multi-chain future. The panel will be moderated by my colleague Jazzy, and on stage she'll be joined by Marco Brondani of Futureverse, Jason Ma of Axelar, and Reza Bashash of Solargenic. Over to you, Jazzy.
Hi there, I'm Jazzy. I lead the DeFi products group at Ripple. Today we're going to talk a little bit about interoperability. So just a couple years ago, interoperability was a very niche, high-risk area within blockchain and has evolved to become one of the most frequently talked about discussion areas at conferences like this, an essential component of the blockchain experience, just like highways are in the real world today. So I have with me three thought leaders within this space. We have Marco, as well as Jason and Reza. Why don't we kick off with some introductions and maybe tell us a little bit about your projects?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Marco, co-founder and CTO of Futureverse. My background comes mostly from information security. I've been working for a very long time, investigating and collaborating with national agencies, international agencies, security agencies around the world in this space, mostly around identity theft, money laundering, and cyber criminality. So I come into the blockchain from the perspective of what is actually wrong with the blockchain and why the blockchain is being exploited so much in the past. I've been enjoying the blockchain, and eventually I became an advocate for the blockchain. It is really a technology that can resolve a lot of different problems for the society. But at the same time, what my experience really taught me is about to remain humble from one perspective. Everything that we do as technology or as technical persons or people, we create something that everyone should be able to use and enjoy. But there is always someone that can find a way of misinterpreting the original message or profiting for doing something wrong with it. And the other side is I learned to remain always very curious and very attentive to what is happening around me. So to have kind of a broader view of what is happening around what my specific project or my specific company is doing, and be open to collaborate, to cooperate with everyone around in the same space.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason. I'm the head of DeFi at Axler. Axler is a decentralized, full-stack interoperability platform. Axler today connects over 60 blockchains, both EVM and non-EVMs. My background has primarily been in strategy and operations. Prior to joining Axler as the head of DeFi, I was actually a Rippler myself. So super excited to be back here at Apex and seeing all of the energy around here. For me, interoperability is all about making user experience better in crypto, removing the complexities, removing liquidity fragmentation, and really creating a true chain agnostic experience so we can onboard the next billion users.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reza Bashaj. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Sologenic and Corium. My background is in engineering with focus on blockchain and AI. Sologenic is one of the first and the largest ecosystems built on top of the XRP Ledger, providing decentralized applications that leverage the use of native functionalities on the ledger. Excited to be here.
Thanks all. Great to have you here. So let's dive in one little level deeper. Could you tell us a little bit more about what specifically interoperability really means to you? What does it unlock? And why should, more importantly, all of the developers here, the blockchain users here, start to think about interoperability now in their use cases on chain?
Well, to me, interoperability is a trustless and decentralized way for value, assets, and data to move across different chains. It is crucial, essentially, for two groups of users. End users, where they get better liquidity, more seamless experience using blockchain. And for the second group of users, which are the developers and the builders on the ecosystem, they can scale really fast with interoperability, and brings more innovation because interoperability allows developers to use different functionalities of different chains. As you know, there are 20,000 blockchains around, and each excels in doing one thing really good. By leveraging interoperability, developers can actually utilize different things from different chains. And that's very important for user adoption because essentially that brings that seamless experience I mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with Reza. We are clearly now in a cross-chain world. We're at the point where there's a new blockchain every single day, and this trend is only accelerating. With new technologies like roll-up as a service, with what Celestia has built, you can deploy a new chain as fast as you deploy a smart contract. So in the future, we will have millions of chains. And of course, without interoperability, we're only fragmenting the liquidity, the user experience, and crypto becomes really unusable, right? So really, in order to achieve the vision that crypto has always held, to really disrupt like financial services and many industries across the world, and to scale crypto, we need interoperability. So we're really excited to see this great panel of experts building towards that future.
Absolutely. If I may just add on top of that, as I said, my background is really about humanity and the humans and how the humans interact between each other. So Futureverse has its own core, the attention to the end users. And because of that, we consider really to pay as much attention as possible to the user experience, but also to the adoption and how we can really achieve the max adoption of the technology like blockchain, but then also AI and so on. And to the point that interoperability being kind of a technical term, I kind of like cooperation, which is a more generic term, but it's really what we have to do right now. We need to cooperate and work together to make it a reality. On the other side, it was very nice. A couple of days ago at the Expand event, Ferran from Persist actually did a very good presentation and just told us and remembered us that all of these topics are probably quite new for the XRPL kind of ecosystem, but has been around for a very long time. So it's almost kind of, we are doing a sort of catch up at the moment on these topics. And I think it's important to remember this for 2 points. One is really something that is needed. We need to expand the horizon of what we can do with XRP and XRPL in general. And the second is that we are not really reinventing anything. We need to perfect, we need to increase and improve the technology that we already have. We are not really reinventing the wheel of the interoperability. We are making that possible in a way. And so, yeah, interoperability means for the end users that they should be able to use and enjoy and play with whatever they have, wherever they go. So it's kind of an answer to the question, do you really own anything if you can't bring that with you? That's for us kind of the question that we want to answer with the interoperability and all the technology that we are developing for answering this question.
Yeah, really great points. So Reza, back over to you. I mean, Sologenic at this point is a household name within the XRPL community. You've been building on the chain since 2019. Like any community, XRPL has its own flavor, preferences, use cases that users are interested in. Tell us a little bit about, how you think the XRPL community should think about cross-chain and interoperability specifically.
At Sologenic, one of the key pillars of our strategy is going multi-chain. And we have developed an entire layer 1 blockchain called Corium to extend the ledger, the XRP Ledger's functionality beyond what's available today. We built a bridge so that assets can seamlessly transfer between one chain, the XRP Ledger, to Corium and back. And not only XRP, but every issued currency on the ledger can be transferred to the Corium blockchain, which essentially is an IBC-enabled chain that unlocks access to hundreds of chains that use this standard. On the other hand, assets from IBC-based chains, such as Corium, USDC, and any other asset that exists there, can flow on the XRP Ledger in a seamless and trusted way. And I think interoperability for XRP Ledger is important, and it makes users unlock different value with what they're doing. If you have assets on the XRP Ledger, while the XRP Ledger provides a lot of functionalities, from the code base it has today, and where it's working on a lot of new amendments, you can extend that functionality like with smart contracts. And we actually developed a thing called smart tokens. And smart tokens are tokens that sort of follow the XRPL's vision in a way that they are deterministic in gas and as a really fast finality. And I think that's pretty much what we've done with extending the functionality.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Marco, similarly, the root network is very closely integrated with the XRP Ledger. Could you tell us a little bit more about why interoperability and cross-chain interactions are important to Futureverse and its users?
So yes, the root network was designed from the beginning to be very close to the XRPL and all of the community that is already into the liquidity. It's a big problem, liquidity, we know about that. So the XRPL and XRP token are still need to find the right way of exploding and being adopted and just being able to leave the wallets where they've been sitting for too long, in a way. So the very first question for us was, there is a lot of potential. How can we work on that? How can we build on that? And how can we reach out to the end users, as we're saying? So the design of the root network is really around, as a side chain of XRPL, is to adopt XRP as the default gas token, but also to allow everyone to bring their own token. All the different projects can really bring their own token, and eventually in their own application, allow to pay in their own token. And then behind the scenes, we translate that into XRP token. So at the end, this really creates a lot of value, intrinsic value to the XRP as a token, but also a lot of value for their own communities that are not maybe exposed, but they will discover XRP and XRPL because of that. So that is the very first design of the root network and how we are promoting it. And as I said, the root network is a new network, and we have, luckily, all of the freedom to design our own standards and protocols depending on what the users are telling us that they need. And when I say users, we have always this dichotomy in a way of two different audiences. One is, of course, the developers. Any blockchain, any system, any software, if any platform, if there are no developers adopting it or starting building for it, there is no adoption of that platform. But then the developers also need the audience and users that will start using and enjoying the products and the projects and the applications and the games that these developers will do. So as a Futureverse, we are trying to keep moving forward with both of these two audiences. It's really, really important. Providing the end users the examples, what you could do using something built on the Futureverse platform and the root network, and what the developers can do to provide these functionalities to their end users. And because of that, the interoperability really is at the center of everything that we do. We really need to be able to talk, communicate, and work correctly with all the different partners, all the different other projects. And then we really believe that it will grow and will create value for everyone actually participating to this ecosystem. So it's not just for us, but it's we believe in the good for all.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's great. Jason, over to you next. So XLR is very well known in cross-chain innovation and communication. They've become a leader in a historically high-risk space. Could you tell us a little bit about some of XLR's key initiatives, as well as what excites you about the upcoming XRP Ledger integration?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Axler is known for cross-chain communication, but it's something that a lot of people don't still fully understand. Like, how we break it down is, when it comes to cross-chain interoperability, you have asset transfers, aka known as bridging, as well as something known as message passing. And message passing is this abstract concept that many people don't fully grasp, right? But what it really is ability to pass any payload between two different types of blockchains. It could be a command, it could be like an instruction. The end result is, with cross-chain messaging, you're able to build all kinds of chain agnostic applications where you're able to combine like very complex functions to be executed in a single step, creating these one-click experiences. And the end result is it helps create a world of like chain abstraction, where the end user is able to do whatever they want without knowing what chain they're using and what chain is even underneath it. So with Axeler, this is something that we've been working on for the last 3 years. Axeler today, as I mentioned, connects to 60+ blockchains, all the major EVM chains, L2s, as well as the Cosmos IBC chains. And what we're doing with Ripple is something that's incredibly exciting. We're going to be connecting both XRPL as well as the new EVM sidechain so that they have full interoperability to all of the existing chains on the Axeler network. So now imagine a world where you can bridge any asset from these EVM and Cosmos chain to XRPL and the other way back. The XRP can now be available on any of these chains, as well as the tokenized assets, RWAs, that the Ripple team has been busy building. But this is just the beginning. When we have message passing unlocked, we'll also see an influx of applications from these EVM chains, Cosmos chains, to expand onto XRPL as well as the new EVM sidechain. I think in the long run, what we'll see is Ripple's XRPL as well as the sidechain will become the hub for institutions and for institutional grade DeFi, really unlocking a whole new world of possibilities and growth for the Ripple and XRPL community.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. Reza, over to you. Sologenic and Corium are also tackling this space head on. Could you tell us a little bit more about how your project leverages the XRPL's capabilities in order to build your solution?
So Sologenic's, one of Sologenic's core objectives has always been to tokenize securities like stocks, ETFs. And so the XRP Ledger provides most of the tools we need to do that. You have the trust lines, which allows you to whitelist or blacklist any address, which is required by regulatory frameworks. And then you have the XRPL DEX, which allows you to provide liquidity on demand for any asset to any asset. So despite having the AMMs, which are great for popular assets like Bitcoin, USDC, XRP, USDC, and so on, the order book DEX of the XRP Ledger allows you to swap any asset against any asset before providing the liquidity. So you don't need to have the liquidity to be able to swap or to be able to participate in that market. That's great, but then we took it a bit further by introducing Corium, obviously, to extend DeFi functionalities for these RWAs and tokenized assets. As assets move across chain in a trustless way, they can be used in other DeFi applications like lending, borrowing, or any other AMM pools that are available on the whole IBC-based chains. And I think that is actually really good because it allows institutions to tokenize assets, real-world assets, securities or anything, real estate, in one chain and be able to use it on the other chain. And the XRP Ledger, as Jason mentioned, is in a really good position for institutions to just do that. So we're providing the required tools around the whole ecosystem. And that's what essentially being multi-chain means here in this space.
Yeah. If I may, I really like the positioning of that, and then what it really means. Basically, what you are describing, it's really putting XRPL at the center of a potential network of networks. I really like this idea because that is also representing kind of growing an ecosystem, but also growing a network of kind of the roots of a tree, of a forest of trees that really permeate the soil around them. And because of that, the reach that we can have into the society and into the population it's enormous. So we can really gain adoption, increase the audience because of what you are doing as well. I mean, I am a big fan of both Sologenic and Axeler in particular, but I really believe that those are the concepts that we really need to push forward to make this a reality.
User adoption is the key at the end of the day.
Is the key, absolutely.
Listening to Wietz's panel today, and he was mentioning that this is the walking stage where, if there isn't adoption, there isn't a future for the whole blockchain space in general. You need to create applications that are usable for institutions, for end users, for anybody who's involved in the system, without even them knowing what's going on behind the scenes, and they can trust that everything is decentralized and is trustless.
Exactly. At the end, it's really a win for all, a benefit for all, really creating this. Sorry.
No, that's great. 100%. Usability is the North Star for all of us. So
Absolutely.
those are great points. Let's talk a little bit about challenges. Jason and Reza, we can all acknowledge that bridging is a very hard technical problem. What challenges have you faced in the development of your products? And how do you, have you faced any trade-offs along the way? Maybe we'll start with Jason and then back over to Reza.
Yeah, for sure. I think for us at Axler, the biggest challenge is still just educating both users and developers on, what interoperability really means and what the trade-offs are with different designs of different interoperability solutions. The reality is most people still just wants to bridge an asset from one chain to another, and they'd want to do it the fastest way and cheapest way possible. And they don't really care about how it works or what's happening under the hood. And I totally understand that. But also in reality is the fastest and cheapest ways is often using the most centralized way, using off-chain components, and oftentimes governed by a multi-sig, right? And we've seen this happen. Back then, if you guys remember, the most popular asset transferring bridge was multi-chain. And everyone used them because they were the cheapest and the fastest. And it was well known in the interoperability space for a long time that multi-chain was governed by multi-sig. It had a single point of failure. And despite, telling many developers, many teams the dangers of that, people just don't care until the implosion happens, right? Where we saw users lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and the industry really took that as a learning lesson. But fast forward a few months later, we're starting to see new multi-chains pop up. And I think the biggest challenge is just educating and advancing as an industry, getting that level of education up so that people really understand what these trade-offs are, what are the risks of using decentralized interoperability infrastructure, so we don't have any of these blow-ups in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this is the multi-chain fiasco was actually really a wake-up call for bridge and users in general to be able to verify and trust bridge to use. And I think generally the challenges are there are two categories of challenges here. One is for developers, because essentially that the bridge is a language that's specifically designed for two chains to talk to one another and be able to transfer assets and value and things. And being able to translate that really well between the two chains is a bit challenging. Because there isn't any standards there. You have the IBC, which is a standard for cross-chain, but then you don't have it on a lot of other chains like Bitcoin and XRP Ledger. But now, in order to bring those into those standards, you need to have a customized way of making that bridge. So that's one challenge. And I think the second challenge is the security, because at the end of the day, users, end users, retail, enterprises, anybody who wants to use multi-chain functionality need to trust the system. You've seen, even in decentralized bridges, there are vulnerabilities, attacks, and hacks, so nothing is 100% safe and secure. So the challenge is for builders like us to get the code base audited multiple times to make sure that there aren't any vulnerabilities in the code, and for those who are using it to trust those audits. And we've seen in the past that audits cannot be just the only solution for security, but I think this is the best that everybody can do at this point in time, by making code open source, by allowing anybody to inspect it, to make sure that this bridge is indeed fully decentralized and non-custodial.
Yeah, 100%. Great points. It'll be interesting to see how standardization evolves. Maybe we can talk about it at the next Apex. So Marco, back over to you. I'd love to dig a little deeper. I know we talked about usability before, but what specific strategic steps is Futureverse really taking to ensure an interconnected, interoperable experience for its users?
Bloody good question. I think there is a lot really that we still have to unpack, and we're working on And that's where really the cooperation with other parties will also come very, very in handy. I said the question about do you really own anything if you're not able to take wherever you go is the question. And that really means, of course, moving assets around cross-chain. It's a very complex technology and topic. Better to find someone that is really specializing on this type of topics and create a proper business around it. So, you know, it's very good as developers themselves to understand your limits and find someone that actually is able to tackle these specific problems probably better than you. That's what I was saying, being humble. I was saying at the beginning, it's really recognize what are your own limits and what you could do. But at the same time, stay very close to your original vision. Our vision is really to reach as many people as possible to really achieve the mass adoption, in a way, of the blockchain technology. David Schwartz yesterday in his keynote was saying that there is this merging of the digital culture and the popular culture. It's basically one. We say that it's the digital world and the digital society and the in real life society are basically becoming one. It's the same concept. And he was also mentioning about we need to make the technology disappear for the end user. It's not that we are inventing a new magic. It would be easy if we could really inventing a new magic, but we need to build a technology that makes possible to make the technology invisible. I really believe that the end users, and to be able to onboard end users, is possible only if we make the technology as easy as it was not even there. So the blockchain is a complex topic, but the main big challenge for us, for everyone, is really how to make that so easy for the end users that it's not just cheap, it's not just fast, it's invisible. It's not even there for the end user. So on the other side, really, I think that our main focus, as I said, is bringing people to the ecosystem. So we are targeting different cooperations. I really like this word, cooperations with the big brands, and try to bridge the gap between the Web 2 and the Web 3. Web 3 and the Web 3.0, they are probably two different things exactly, but really, how can we reach those people and make them enjoying and understanding and have fun? At the end, engagement comes with fun. Really, so that we can bring the people to the ecosystem. And then, as I said, with these people, everyone will really win.
Definitely. Yeah, really great points, Marco. Jason, let's chat a little bit about definitely an area of expertise for you, DeFi. How do you expect interoperability to play into the DeFi space? What improvements do you expect?
Yeah, you know, I think when it comes to DeFi, interoperability is becoming more and more crucial. As we talked about earlier, as there's more and more chains, what we're seeing is that there's more and more DeFi applications scattered across all of these different blockchain ecosystems. And as a result of that is liquidity is also then scattered across all of these places. And you know, a key value proposition of DeFi is that it needs to be as competitive as centralized exchanges, centralized venues. And for that to happen, you really need to be able to consolidate the liquidity to facilitate like competitive swaps and so on. And Axler is doing exactly that, right? We talked about earlier how with Axler, you can now bridge all kinds of assets to the XRPL, which will now enable the AMM that's being built on XRPL to be able to offer all kinds of assets that users want, you know, giving the kind of coverage that a centralized exchange would have. The second piece is consolidating that liquidity all in a single place so that it really offers an experience that's just as competitive as these like centralized venues. I think also, you know, just allowing users to be able to, you know, come from all the chains, this just gives them more motivation for developers to be able to build more easily and build out those critical DeFi building blocks.
Yeah, definitely. Great points. And are there any particular applications within the Axler space that you're excited about within DeFi?
Yeah, I think, you know, Squid Router is an application that I'm really excited about. So if anyone hasn't checked them out yet, I would highly recommend you give them a try. So Squid is built a cross-chain swap application on top of Axler. It allows users to swap any asset from any of the 60+ chain that Axler supports into any other native asset in 20 seconds or less. And the most exciting part about this is rather than having its own pools and liquidity, what Squid is actually doing is it's composing with DEXs and AMMs on these different chains to facilitate these swaps. So it's incredibly capital efficient, and it's just so easy. And it offers a kind of a glimpse into that chain agnostic experience that I mentioned to users, because you have no idea what chain Squid is built on. You simply select, source chain, source asset, destination chain, destination asset, and in a click of a button, you get what you want. So I really think this is kind of a preview into what the future of crypto and blockchain will look like. And I'm sure in the near future, many of you will be using Squid to be able to swap assets onto XRPL and onboard to the new chains.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. This was a really great discussion. Marco, Jason, Reza, really appreciate all of your insights. Excited to watch your projects as well as interoperability across blockchain evolve over the years. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining the panel. Next up is Messari, one of the leading research and analytical firms in Web3. Their data and research about different blockchains are utilized by individuals and businesses across the industry and around the globe. Bradley, better known as Red Sheehan, is a researcher and developer at Messari, as well as the author of the quarterly XRP Ledger reports. Red will present about the state of institutional DeFi adoption, as well as the trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping today's DeFi landscape. Take it away, Red.
Howdy, Apex. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I'm Red. I'm a research analyst at Messari. Data is kind of the name of the game for us. Think of it as like the Bloomberg of crypto. We try to add some transparency to a space where, yes, it's all on-chain, but it's sometimes hard to understand what's going on. And we've been talking a bit about RWAs. I'm going to put a hopefully unique twist on it so we can get into some other aspects of it. So I'll do a quick zoom out, look at DeFi, jump into RWAs, what they started as and what maybe the next evolution of them will be, and then what does that look like on the XRP Ledger and in its broader ecosystem? Because it is no longer one network, it is a group of side chains, and we're getting some modularity in there, which is fun. Zooming out on the state of DeFi, in short, it is probably on Ethereum. If it's not on Ethereum, it's on the EVM. And we see that with ETH having a majority of the TVL. We see that with Tron, Binance, Avalanche, all these other networks that are using the EVM, similar to the Evmos client that is used for PeerSyst's EVM sidechain. And we're seeing that is where users and liquidity are. We are seeing $100 billion+ of total value locked on all of these networks put together. And that brings us to RWAs, which are very intertwined with DeFi. And the most popular RWA, which is stablecoin, is kind of the core of DeFi, and it helps a lot of it run. I don't think we'd be anywhere near where we are in terms of applications, users, and liquidity without that specific RWA. I'm sure you all have a good idea of what they are now, but yeah, let's take some off-chain assets, let's put them on-chain, let's tokenize them, let's get all those good things that we have about crypto, and let's have our real-world off-chain assets inherit them. The 24/7 trading, the democratization of access to these assets, the ability to fragment them and break them up into pieces, adding a different flavor of democratization. One is just being able to access them, but two is if you can break these things up, you can lower the price point, more people can get involved. Generally, we have two types, tangible and intangible. So when some people hear RWA, you might think of like a house or maybe like a Rolex or something like that. You might also think your TradFi assets, so US Treasuries and things like that. They both have some benefits. They both share some similar challenges. So what some of those challenges look like is, other than like commodities, we still have regulation involved. So when you think of on-chain assets, we're talking about decentralized assets, right? No one has a say in whether you send someone else XRP. That's completely up to you and the recipient. This is a sovereign asset. But when you deal with something that is regulated off-chain, the situation changes a little bit. So, I've got a house, I'm representing it, as an NFT, and if I want to transfer that to someone, well, yeah, I can send the NFT, but if my local government does not recognize that sale, then did I sell the house? Like, no, we still have this regulation. We still have parties that have a say in it. It makes it an asset that is not completely sovereign. And that's the case with our stablecoins today. If you look at USDC or USDT, you can have a blacklist of an address, and there are some kind of safety features built in there. And these are needed for regulatory reasons. And if you were the issuer, Circle or Tether, or with RLUSD, Ripple being the issuer, you want to have that control. You want to be compliant. So this changes a bit of what these tokenized assets look like compared to traditional crypto assets, which are completely sovereign and completely decentralized, and you have full autonomy over your assets and what you're doing with them. Now, diving a little bit deeper into stablecoins, looking at the state of stablecoins today, $161 billion market cap. I've got a couple of charts here that show the meteoric rise of stablecoins outpacing some, popular TradFi payment rails like a MasterCard, and then even Bitcoin, which, might be surprising as stablecoins are, almost secondary in the crypto world, right? Your native asset, your BTC or your XRP, is thought of as like, hey, this is the main course, and stables are off to the side, but they actually do more transfer volume. And that happens in a lot of places, not just ETH, this happens on Tron and other networks as well. But, the bottom line is, and I hope the irony is not lost on you, that fiat money and the US dollar are super popular on crypto. I mean, crypto exists because, for a large reason, a lot of people were not satisfied with fiat. So we made crypto, and what do we use it for? To transfer fiat. We're kind of coming full circle here. Looking at USDC and USDT, these are the two largest and most popular stablecoins, and we're going to have a lot of diversity in stablecoins because we have different people that want different ones for different reasons. Looking at this chart here, we have some data from Coinmetrics where it just shows frequency of on-chain transactions, and that gives you a pretty good idea, assuming people are awake at normal hours, of who is actually transferring these assets. We can see that the West favors USDC. We can see that the East prefers USDT based on times of the transactions. These are not our only two stables. Probably the next largest one, or the one that was the largest after these, was UST, Terra Luna, and you probably have some bad memories of that one if you were involved because it exploded. And some people think that was because it was an algorithmic stablecoin rather than having a governed peg. I would argue the issue with UST was actually that it used endogenous collateral, and algorithmic stablecoins can actually work fine. So you can have different backings, whether your backing is fiat or BTC. You can have governed pegs. You can have a fixed price, $1. It can be floating, like RAI, where it's not actually fixed to one price, which, inflation is real, so the US dollar is not exactly a fixed price either. But there are a lot of permutations on what we can do, and we really have not cracked the door open on that yet. We're really just using the same kinds of assets. And what I have here is a case study on what happens to a DeFi ecosystem when stablecoins get introduced. And it's a very predictable pattern of what's going to happen in the ecosystem. I used Cardano as a case study because Cardano has a novel execution environment. It's not using the EVM. And Cardano had a couple stablecoins introduced, and its TVL exploded. And that is rather predictable in any environment, because what do people want to do with their money when they're getting into DeFi? Maybe they want some yield, maybe they want to lock it up in a liquidity pair, but you don't really want to be pairing two volatile assets, right? So the dollar is, it's the global reserve currency. It is the asset of choice to do your DeFi pairings. So once you have a stable coin and I can pair my XRP with something else that's stable, yes, this is interesting to people. Rather than them having to use a volatile asset and have to keep an eye on it, and people want escapes from volatility. So particularly relevant right now, as we just got an AMM live on the XRP Ledger, but this is pretty common throughout ecosystems, and both of the stablecoins here are not fiat-backed. Fiat-backed, as USDC, USDT, and they're governed, is generally the favored type based on just TVL and usage, on what we see people actually like to put their money in and feel safe about. And that's not even the case there. In this example, this case study of a one-year look at TVL and stablecoin growth. Now, looking past fiat-backed stablecoins into other types of RWAs, because stablecoins are not the end. You think everyone's going to stop at spot. They don't want yield or anything. They don't want to get into some more interesting assets. Stablecoins are the name of the game in finance on-chain, but that seems so simple when you look at traditional finance, right? Like if the dollar was the end goal, no. People want all these complicated investment vehicles, and they want to get fancy with it. They want to experiment with stuff. So, the dollar is really just the bedrock, the baseline infrastructure. We've seen growth not to the same degree that we've seen with stables. Said $161 billion in stablecoin value. So we're seeing growth, but not to the same degree yet. This is just showing some, a little 4x in some alternative types. And these are things like commodities. These are things like US Treasuries, things like real estate. And they're all kind of just getting their footing. The difference with some of these assets, remember I was talking before about, hey, we still have regulation, we still have entities that they need to be pulled into the loop. You can't really do this without, pulling in a local government that has a say in real estate. You need regulation, and you need asset holders to be approved to be holding treasuries. So some of that foundation is being laid. And some of the early movers are getting into that. But what do we need for these new RWAs? What do we still need? KYC controls are one thing. KYC is know your customer. This is, identity, really. And it could be, having to show someone your driver's license every time you want to get onboarded to a platform. Not really favorable, kind of against the cypherpunk ethos that bring many of us here. But there are other ways to do this. DIDs, decentralized identities, are one way. So, we're on this one. We're exploring it. We need on-chain issuers to get involved. If we have an ETF and I want to be able to buy that ETF on-chain, eat some ETF from Fidelity or whatever, well, either Fidelity needs to say, hey, I'm on board, I'm going to go put it on-chain, or we need some intermediary to go and take Fidelity's ETF, custody it, and put it on-chain themselves. So a couple ways to do that, but we need to warm up to on-chain issuers, which I think we see happening. We saw the Bitcoin ETFs get approved, and well over $10 billion of net flows in less than 6 months, or maybe just 6 months now. So TradFi is interested. We have this legitimacy from the U.S. government and from the SEC, which goes a long way with reputable companies that want to be compliant. So we're seeing some more of that now. We also need compliance tools. I talked about, I just send you this NFT that's a house. It doesn't mean you own it yet, because the blockchain says you own it, but the government doesn't think you own it. So, completely out of touch there. We need compliance tools. We need companies to be able to safely issue these things. And I mentioned there's a little bit of that with USDC. In a fully programmable environment where things are Turing complete, you can kind of set up your token however you want. So the double-edged sword of issued assets, issued currencies on the XRP Ledger, hey, really easy to put this out, but you don't have that full composability. Luckily, we have a lot of enshrined tools that are ready to go on XRP Ledger. So before, that would look like trust lines and kind of deciding, hey, who can hold this asset, which wallets are not on the OFAC sanction list. And we have more recent tools like clawbacks, which, similar to that USDC part, this is just more of an enshrined feature of, hey, I need to take this money back because I don't want some malicious actor, using funds that I issued and tokenized on chain. And then institutional adoption, I will keep hammering that this one is not solved yet. Part of it is we need to make it easy for them. Institutions are not going to go do all this hard work and figure it out if they don't know if there's a future with it. But if it's very simple for them to do, if we have all the infrastructure in place, things like clawbacks, institutional adoption gets a little bit easier. Things like regulation, like the ETFs, it makes it a little more friendly to get involved there. I think US Treasuries are the RWA to keep an eye on. We do see shifts with interest rates. So, crypto is not decoupled from the larger financial ecosystem in that when interest rates change, we see a difference on where people are looking to put their money. If you can get higher yields from stable coins that are backed by treasuries, yeah, you're going to go do that. But if those US Treasury yields are really low, then people are going to go back to their degen DeFi yield and go use it over there. Private credit had a moment in 2022 where it grew quite a bit, and it hasn't been as strong since then. People are still building in that area, but US Treasuries are a big one. MakerDAO is a Web3 native US Treasury, user of US Treasuries, and their vault is about half filled with treasuries, but we have a lot of incumbents in the TradFi world that are getting into treasuries. So Franklin Templeton is one. They've got a huge fund. Ondo is one. In the other types of RWAs, I know Onyx is a platform by JP Morgan that's Axelar, who is just up here. They're an interoperability solution for that. So we're getting this exploration already. Fidelity, Wisdom Tree, a lot of these incumbents are getting interested. Maybe they're interested, maybe they see the writing on the wall, and it is adapt or die because crypto is not going away. We are here. But otherwise, they're getting their feet wet, and US Treasuries seems to be a popular route for that. It is an intangible financial asset, which makes it a little bit easier. It's already digital. Those tangible assets like a house or a Rolex or a commodity, you have a few more steps. It's a little bit more complicated to get them on. So I think that's why we're seeing these intangible financial assets, come on first or get a little bit more adoption first. Just another look at some, RWA early movers, people that are getting involved very early. And now I'm going to shift focus a little bit into DPIN. Has anyone heard this acronym before? Hand up. Okay, a couple people. We love our acronyms, which is why it's so hard to get into this space. We keep using terms like DPIN. That doesn't mean anything. It means Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks, which is a Messari term that was coined. And it is not real-world assets, but I find this to be real-world asset adjacent. And this is a very popular narrative, in the broader crypto space. It's kind of like looking at commodities. So, Bitcoin, the first crypto, is kind of like DPIN money. It's just a decentralized infrastructure network for money. And it's, adjacent to peer-to-peer. It's kind of like that. But another way to, look at crypto is, it's not money. Money was the first implementation. There are other implementations of what you can do with this. Maybe compute, like computation. That is something we generally all have. We all have a phone or a computer, and we all definitely use it. Bandwidth is another one. So there are these ideas. What other things can be built with this decentralized architecture? What other commodities can be best distributed that way, other than just money? And we get all the nice properties we like about on-chain currencies and things like that. So these are, more so commodities than assets, but it is a parallel to the interest in RWAs in that people see the benefits of blockchain. People want to put, other products, things they use, tools on chain. And, DPIN is growing a lot. A lot of it is in Solana world. A lot of it's on Ethereum. But, you'll have things like if I'm hopping on a Zoom call and it has to go to a data center across the world and back for me to talk to someone in my city, we'd have a little bit less ping if I just, used the local server because if we had a distributed network. And, like computation too. if you've got a gaming computer sitting at home and you're not using it, well, you could rent out that GPU rather than a Google Cloud warehouse. So there are, reasons to kind of tokenize a lot more things, put a lot more things on chain. Now, onto RWAs and the XRP Ledger. I'll get into a bit more into headwinds because, let's do a little bear posting. Let's talk about the other side of this and not just be totally bullish. Like, what could hold RWAs back? The demand side is one. So I talked about that regulation, right? You're not dealing with a completely, sovereign asset in that sense. So do users want that? We're seeing adoption start to pick up, and with currencies, with stable coins, they seem very okay with it, but still to be seen with certain types of RWAs, private credit and things that have not seen the same level of adoption. So we have yet to see what the demand side looks like. We have yet to see if after institutions dip their toes in, do they really want to get involved with this? Part of that is us in this room. We're trying to make it as easy to use as possible. But you might end up with the worst of both worlds if you have the crypto people saying, this is not fully sovereign, I want full sovereignty, and you have the institutions saying, hey, I used to have complete control over this asset, and now I'm giving some of that up to put it on chain. I don't know if I want to do that. So, we need to keep working to make these things attractive and easy to use, and, try to mitigate some of these possible friction points that we're going to have. But past headwinds, looking at where we are with the XRP Ledger, we have some existing infrastructure that works pretty well. We have native assets. It's pretty easy to deploy. We have functions like clawbacks. We have a central limit order book and an AMM built in. And David mentioned this in his talk yesterday, talking about the AMM has some strategies to fight impermanent loss, which I think is super cool because if you are, kind of plugged in a few different communities and you live in a couple different worlds, you notice these things really rhyme a lot. PBS, proposer builder separation, is the exciting strategy on Ethereum to get rid of MEV, to get rid of that maximal extractable value, where block builders, with their privilege to create blocks of transactions, might be able to, get a little extra money out of that. So auctioning off the right to build blocks is kind of what the AMM is doing with auctioning off the right to, be this arbitrage between pools. And again, tying into other talks, Wietse was talking about, hey, we're knocking down these walls, we're not building in silos anymore. There is so much overlap and so much rhyming between what's going on in these different ecosystems. So some of them, in the XRP Ledger community, we are maybe borrowing some learnings from other places, and then other communities are borrowing some learnings from the XRPL. I mean, Pathfinder's been around for the entire existence of the network, which really helps you source liquidity from other places. And pathfinding sounds just like Intents if you are building in the DEX world over on the EVM in most places, like the Squid router that was just talked about. It's, if you're a developer, the difference between imperative and declarative. And Pathfinders existed for however long, and people are just now saying, wait a minute, we should build our DEXs that way. We should just put up one side, I want to make this trade, and let someone else come fill it with whatever path they want. So these learnings are being exchanged across different crypto ecosystems, and the lines are getting very blurry. I mentioned earlier how DeFi users and liquidity primarily live on the EVM. Well, yeah, a reason for the EVM being used on the Persist EVM sidechain, we have so much tooling. We can use oracles, we can use wallets, we can use all of this infrastructure that lives in other places and use it to our benefit in here. And that's where a lot of this comes together. So yeah, in the incoming infrastructure, we have that EVM sidechain, and we have DIDs, which is another big question mark on, okay, we want to be compliant. How are we going to be compliant? Yeah, decentralized identity, that way we're not totally fleecing everyone's privacy and airing out your details all over a public permanent ledger. And I think on a more macro scale or a broader look at the ecosystem is that XRP Ledger's community is growing, and I think it's growing at a faster rate than the asset XRP. And to kind of frame that for you more broadly, I like to think of cryptocurrency networks as two distinct assets. You have a network, which is this very secure and reliable database, and you have an asset, which people may like these things for different reasons. People may like this very secure database with this novel Sybil resistance mechanism, POA, on the XRPL. And they might say, cool, yeah, I love this. You can't just buy your way in. It's not like proof of stake or proof of work where you can just buy miners or have more stake and then you get a say in putting transactions together. It's more like social consensus resources. And people might love that. But people might love XRP for a different reason. And that kind of gives you two different communities. And I think up until recently, we would see that XRP has a much larger community than the XRP Ledger. And I say that in terms of who is using XRP, who knows about XRP. Maybe they're using it off the network. They're using it on centralized exchanges because they want to invest in it or transfer it. And then you look at XRP Ledger, and it doesn't have programmability, so maybe people are not involved as much in the same way. I would argue Bitcoin is in a very similar boat. BTC has a larger community than Bitcoin, the network. We have the converse side of this, Ethereum and Cosmos. The EVM has extended way past the asset ETH. Cosmos SDK and their technology has expanded way past the Cosmos Hub, than what Atom has done. So we have these divergent relationships in those communities. We're now seeing a lot more growth in the XRP Ledger's community, the network. And that's because of this introduction of modularity and programmability. Things like hooks that are letting people build new things. The new amendments that we got in late 2022 for NFT transactions. You technically could have NFTs before that, but they are now first-class citizens on the network. And all of these little steps in technologies and programmability are getting us closer to more complicated narratives and allowing them to live on the network. Things like RWAs, that a lot of infrastructure is needed, and there's a lot of precursors to get these things actually live and living on the network. So a programmability renaissance is what you want, and it's bringing that in. And then we have Futureverse and Root Network. We have Sologenic and their Corium sidechain, and PeerSys and the EVM sidechain. Now we have all these other networks popping up where people have fully expressive environments. They have arbitrary programmability, and you can get a lot more creative with what you're building. So as Wietse said before, maybe we want to be on the blockchain that no one knows about. And that is true for users, right? Like, I'm a software developer by trade, and I have no idea how Twitter is built. Like the app on my phone, use it all the time, no clue. That's because it works. The only reason I would ever have to think about, is this built with React Native or Flutter, is if it wasn't working. If to tap your credit card, you had to know who's the clearinghouse and who's the, you wouldn't use it. If you ever have to think about those things, it means the product sucks. All we talk about is infrastructure here. We're very early, maybe still in the crawling stage, but his point was absolutely true for the people outside of this room, for the users. We don't want the users to know what's going on under the hood. They should just say, oh, cool, it works, and never think about it further than that. But for us in this room, we are explicitly aware of what's going on. We're all the nerds and the early movers in here, and we are the people that know what goes on under the hood with all these things. So for us, it's excellent that the community is growing in the developer sense, in the network sense, not just the asset, because both of these need to grow for its success. So that is a lot of what I am seeing in the XRP and XRP Ledger community, and this, growth and expansion of programmability and this desire to bring in other sectors that build off each other, sectors like NFTs and DeFi and more expressiveness, more capabilities, more things to do with tokens like AMMs, more connectivity to other ecosystems, with solutions like Axelar and all that. And then that really lays the groundwork for the more complicated ones, for the ones with more moving pieces, our RWA narratives, our DPIN narratives, and the ones with larger total addressable markets. I mean, crypto itself, we're talking $1 to $2 trillion, but that is dwarfed by all of the other assets that get moved around and played with in the TradFi world. So the ceiling is much higher than where we are now, but a lot of definitive steps are moving in that direction. Thank you. That is all I have for my talk. I am Red from Messari, and I appreciate you all coming.
All right, thanks, Red, for bringing us home this morning. Before we break for lunch, a couple of housekeeping reminders.
If you've completed the passport activity, please return the stamped passports to reception to be included in the draw for prizes. This afternoon, we'll head into breakout sessions once again and reconvene here on the main stage for a final closing session with the one and only David Schwartz.
So with that, please enjoy your lunch. Food is served in the main area of the conference center and on the outdoor terrace. And see you guys later.